Hello everyone, Throttle-On John here with this beautiful 2003 RAV4 we've been going through. Have the paint all glossy, new tires. We put new struts on it and front brakes, and it drives so nice. The brakes work so good. So happy with it. Had it aligned and it works awesome. Had some clunking after doing all that. I found out that the sway arms were bad, causing some clunking up in here. But anyway, I changed oil in it and I noticed it was leaking oil, and I did seal the valve cover. So I just wanted, maybe this will help somebody out. But look at all the oil on this back here. It's up here on the idler. And so what it's doing is it's leaking out of the crankcase, going under the pulley and flinging off and flinging all over everything. It wasn't going to be long. I was going to need a new belt because it was going to be covered in oil, and this was going to be damaged because of all the oil flinging on it. So long story short, I put it on the rack, and we're gonna put a new crank seal on here behind this. So that's what we're doing. I'm going to loosen the serpentine belt off here, take this off, and you can see where the oil is dripping down, fresh oil. And it's kind of behind here, and it's all over this idler tensioner thingy. So it's just, yeah, that's what we got. So we want to fix that. So if this shouldn't be a hard repair. So you have your crankshaft pulley here. We need to take that off. That's where our leak is. I've cleaned it up with contact cleaner, which is why it looks so clean. But there's a 19 millimeter on a 2002, 2001, 2002, 2003 RAV4. There's a 19 millimeter right up here. And what I do to get this off is I put a short, I'll show you, a short socket on there. I put a shallow socket. I chose a 6-point so I wouldn't strip that out. And then we're going to put that up there on that and pull down as we slip this belt off. So you can kind of see it there. I don't think it's going to show up on camera, but that, where we're going with this is, let's see if I can get a shot of it here, is right, why is this so hard to see? It's right back in here. There's a 19 millimeter bolt right there. And just to zoom out here, as I pull down on that, you see the belt loosen, and I'm going to slip it around. So I'm going to have to put the camera down. I'm going to pull that down. As I pull that down, I'm going to slip this off and over. Okay, it was just that easy. I'm even leaving my ratchet up there. I just slipped the belt off. I'm leaving it on everything else because it's just this that needs to come out. So I'm going to get an impact, and we're going to take that off now. Actually, I just put a 19 millimeter on there without an impact, and that just broke right loose. So now we're going to take this off. And this is keyed, so we're going to take, and sometimes you need a puller on that. I'm going to see if that'll just come off with a little bit of wiggling back and forth. Oh man, we found our oil leak. This thing's all lubed up. There's oil everywhere. At least it's clean oil. Wow. Well, found out why this was going to leak. This was going to leak for a long time. That was cracked out. Here's the other piece. And it was eating up the seal. Yeah, I don't think it damaged the crank, but yeah, the seal, we had no seal. Well, this seal was pretty chewed up. The crank looks perfect around, so because this is hardened steel and the pulley is kind of more of a pot steel. But look at that, that just broke out. I bet when we have it up, we had this off, and it looks like it fractured out where the key chain was, or the key inlet setting was was located. And I'm just glad we didn't run this thing much. It would have damaged the crank, but we can get a new seal in here. So that just shows you, investigate. When I saw some oil on the ground, and I running down the side down here, and I started looking. I was like, man, I got a crank seal leak, and so didn't run the car. I immediately investigated, but this was really easy to get out. I'll show you what I did there. You don't want to damage the crank and scratch that up, so I went on the top of it, and then I just kind of pried it out like that, and it of course came out. And then I did the same thing on the other side. So I got on top, I just caught the lip and flicked it out, and did the same thing on the other side. So but you could use a crank puller, not a crank puller, a seal puller too would work well. All I can say is I'm glad I stopped and didn't drive the car. I was going to drive it this week, let my daughter practice driving it, and that would have, who knows if that would have, damaged this crank surface with that metal grinding around on there, but we didn't drive it the minute I found the leak. So anyway, never pays to let things go. So that'll be really easy when we get that seal. I'll show just putting some grease around the crank and around the seal and tapping that in nice and straight, and using a socket, and have some bearing fitting tools that may or may not work. But anyway, that's all for now, and I will post up putting that seal in. There's a brand new seal. I just kind of tapped it in nice and square with a copper punch until it was flush with the case, just little by little by little. And now we'll put our new pulley on that isn't damaged. And I just used motor oil around the lip because motor oil is going to get on there anyway, so I knew it was safe, and I put motor oil on that lip. And we'll just put that on. So just kind of a, going back to this, have any of you ever had a crank pulley crack out like this? These are unrelated parts, but look at this. Part of it looks like it was old and maybe had been fractured for a while, and then it kind of got finished off when we changed our water pump. I wasn't involved with this part of the project when that was done, so I wasn't around, but did that happen from wear and tear? It looked like it fractured where the key went in, and then it fractured out. But anyway, I heard a slight vibration in the engine when I was in drive, and I'd go to park, and the engine RPM would go up, and then this vibration would go away. But this was going to ruin my crank. This was spinning around on the crank with this broken piece. It was puking oil out because the seal, this stuff spinning around had torn the seal out. This is the seal that I pulled out of there. It was gone. So once that seal wasn't retaining this piece, this could have got jammed in there, damaged the crank. As it was, the crank looked perfect, thankfully. So all I needed was a seal, which was, like $13 from Toyota. And then this was rather expensive. This is like a $300 part roughly. So that really surprised me. But anyway, what are you going to do? You needed it. I needed it. So got that fixed. No oil leaks. Car's running great, and the vibration went away. I think what happened is when somebody was removing this, I think they said they were tapping on one end and tapping on the other and gently prying. I think it may have been fractured before, and that finished it off. So what I would recommend is, getting an actual crankshaft puller, which pulls that off, okay? And then, maybe something to flick the seal out. I got both these on Amazon, so I'll do my best to remember to put a link to these tools. So this is a crank pulley puller, and you can see it's made, it'll work on a Toyota, just made for pulling that off. And then this would help you flick the seal out. Mine was so far gone, I was able to flip it out with a screwdriver without issue. So anyway, there's that. When I pressed the new seal in, I didn't have my kit here for a seal press, but I just tapped it in with a copper punch, and that, being really careful, it worked fine. But I don't recommend that. It wasn't exactly easy. I just had to take my time. So I guess the moral of the story with this is, use the right tools. You don't want to create problems when you're working on things yourself. Take your time, and if you do hear a sound, investigate, or have a mechanic investigate. If this had been let go, I mean, I caught it thankfully right away because I heard the vibration and it started to leak oil, and I investigated the oil leak before we really drove it very much at all. And if we had driven it very far, this would have really ruined some stuff. I mean, maybe eventually this would have come off and jammed into some things, and this was certainly going to ruin the crankshaft. It could have even ruined where the seal went in, to where I couldn't even get a new seal to go in without some serious, just things that we don't want to even think about doing, like trying to epoxy steel a rim in to hold the seal. I mean, it would have been just something we don't even want to think about. But anyway, we caught it. If you hear a noise, have a mechanic check it out, or check it out yourself, especially if it's a new noise after work. So that's what got my attention. We put the water pump on and got it all buttoned up, and I started it, and it was very slight. And you try to talk yourself out of it, like maybe I didn't hear it before, and it was there. But I noticed there was a little bit of oil leaking down the side of the motor over here and onto the ground, and I'd never seen that much oil leaking out of the car before. And I was like, that is not right. So put the car up on jacks, took the front wheel off, took the the little bit of skirting on the lower part of the fender off, and there was a lot of oil coming out, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. This car wasn't doing that before, so investigated, but so glad I did. I almost just thought, nah, we'll drive it for a week. I was going to do it over the weekend and just wanted to drive it for another week to get my daughter some experience driving, and I'm glad we stopped. And really, that was an easy project. That was apart in an hour and a half, and then back together in about the same. So that was the front main seal on this car is very easy to do. Piece of cake, actually. Just slip the serpentine belt off, pull the pulley off, pull the seal out, put the seal back in, pulley back on, belt back on, plastic shroud back on, tire on, torque the lug nuts, and that's that. I did change the engine oil in case something went in the motor, although there's a backing plate behind the seal. It would make it hard to get anything in there, but yeah, can't be too careful. All right, well, hope this helps somebody that maybe has a front main seal leaking. Hope it's useful. If nothing else, it can serve as a reminder that if you work on the car yourself, if you hear new noises after you've done the work, investigate. Just take a moment. Maybe you didn't tighten something. Maybe something went wrong. But investigate. See if you see any leaks or weird, where the sound's coming from, and if you can track it down. All right. Hope this is useful. Have an awesome day. Thanks for watching.